Hello, everyone. Welcome to another great webinar, which we have the honor and pleasure to be joined by Eduard Müller, who is going to talk with us about from soil life to project success, regenerative agriculture, and the soil food web. This webinar is much expected, so thank you, Edward. But as always, first, we want to know where are you joining us from today? Type in the chat, let us know where are you coming from. I'm talking to you from Oregon. Edward, where are you today?
Beautiful Costa Rica, and it's nice and sunny, and the beaches are very close to my house.
Awesome, perfect scenario. And what about you, Gerald?
I am in the beautiful Costa Rica as well, but I am in the opposite scenario as Edward. I am in the mountains where it's a cloudy day with chilly temperatures, which is what I love. So yeah, really nice day for us here.
That's awesome. So Costa Rica all over the place, some piece of paradise on earth. So thank you so much for joining us. We see people coming from Canada, Colorado, Alabama, Lesotho, Oregon, Netherlands, Idaho, Michigan, people from everywhere, Sweden, German, Uganda, Greece. I still don't see people from Iceland, but who knows? Maybe one day we're going to get there. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking this time to be here with us. Without further ado, let's just recap some of the webinar attendee guidelines. As always, we're going to keep you guys muted for the duration of the webinar to make sure that everyone, we're going to have a good audio quality. If you have any questions for the panelists, please use the Q&A section at the bottom bar of your Zoom. And as always, interact with all attendees in the chat. This is a space for interaction to help build our community. So enjoy this time that we have together today. So today's topic is about from soil life to project success, regenerative agriculture and the soil food web. We are on this introduction for about 5 minutes. Then we're going to hear from Edward for about 45, 50 minutes, and then guide to the audience Q&A. So type your questions there. We have amazing staff supporting us that we're going to collect all your questions and help us build the Q&A section. We're going to be together for about an hour and a half. So chill out, enjoy Edward's presentation, and let's hear a little bit from him. Edward, would you please present yourself?
For the invite. It's a real big honor for me to be part of this Dr. Lane's Soil Food Web. I am Costa Rican. I used to be a veterinarian in my first business life. 31 years ago, I founded the University for International Cooperation, basically to be able to move sustainability forward in an interdisciplinary way. Probably about 18, 17 years ago, I got to understand that sustainability was not possible anymore, that we needed to look for alternatives, and that's where I started working on regeneration. I've had I don't know if it's a privilege or destiny that I've been very much involved at the global level. I've worked for UN system, UNDP, UNESCO. I've been on scientific advisory committees. I've been a vice chair for the World Commission on Protected Areas from IUCN for over a decade, co-founder of the Global Partnership for Business and Biodiversity. I launched a business biodiversity organization here. I've been on so many boards, a board of trustees of the INBAR, the International Bamboo Institute. Talked a lot, when it was before the Zoom time, I used to travel 40, 45, 50 times a year, mostly to give talks and work with congresses and presidents. I've had lunch with Lula and Evo Morales. I've talked with congresses, and it got to a point where I just said, this is a waste of time. Change is not coming from top. It's not coming from the UN system. It's not coming from the business corporate side. It has to come from the bottom up. And in order to talk about regeneration, we need a very clear, easy definition, which is in service of life, and it has to be very accessible. So we have to demonstrate that regeneration is possible. And that's what I've been doing for the last a bit over 10 years, demonstrating. I launched Costa Rica Regenerativa. Now we have Colombia, Mexico, Uruguay, Chile, which are national initiatives to basically just demonstrate that regeneration is possible and that it is economically feasible and that it's quick. It's very quick. So that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to hear. It seems there is a lot of good history there. So thank you for sharing with us. Gerald, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. As some of you already know, I am Gerald Ramirez. I am an agronomist from Costa Rica. I mean, since I was a child, I've been surrounded by crops, and that's what I love. I love being in the field. I love feeling the soil. But I grew up with this sense that agriculture was life, and everything around agriculture in my area was pure life. But then when I grew up and I started studying agronomy, I realized that we actually don't follow the best practices in our region. There is lots of pesticide inputs being used. There is lots of soil degradation. But I wasn't aware of that until I came to the university and learned about soil concepts. So from there, I started with this idea that I want to do something different. I want to offer people a different thing, both the growers who use the inputs and the people who eat that food, right? I want those people to have better health. And that's where my interest in regenerative agriculture started. It actually first started because I realized that I knew about soil physics and soil chemistry, but I didn't know much about soil biology. So I started trying to learn by myself with all the literature that has been generated in the country and in other areas of the world. And that's how I came across Dr. Elaine. I remember seeing one of her videos in YouTube, and that's where I said, I want to do this, I want to learn this better, and I want to help people implement all these practices. And then I had the great opportunity to start working with the school over 4 years ago. It's almost 5 years, actually, where I've had the opportunity to collaborate in the curriculum, or the giving my agronomist advice to different topics, and of course helping students. This year I've been involved in the workshops that the school is developing, which has been a great opportunity for all of us, students and mentors, to learn more about how things are done in different parts of the world, and really teaching people about our experience. My main project now is in Armonía Agricultura Orgánica in Heredia, Costa Rica, where we successfully developed a composting system for processing all the waste, the organic waste that is produced in the educational campus. We got to a point that we are even trying to compost things that we didn't even consider at the beginning. So yeah, it's been a really successful program. We are now creating liquid amendments and doing some small research trials in chili pepper to try to see the potential of the soil food web approach and how we can start developing policies that we can bring to the pepper producers, something that is realistic and something that they can implement, again, for reducing all the pesticide inputs and everything that is affecting our health, and of course being sustainable at the same time.
Powerful.
Yeah, thanks a lot
Thank
for
you,
the
Gerald.
opportunity. I appreciate being here, and yeah, looking forward to Edward's presentation.
Thank you so much, Gerald. I have the pleasure to work with Gerald on a daily basis. So I'm Carla Portugal. I'm a biologist by background, daughter of a forest engineer and agronomist. So a jackfruit tree don't give mangoes. So I could not escape this realm of living beings. But biology for me was always that spot of everything is interconnected, much more the holistic approach even before we had this entire conversation of holistic in universities. We still have a long path to go, but I'm fortunate to be here at the school for more than 6 years. Have been drinking from the source, like having weekly coffee, science talk with Elaine. So it's just expanded my horizon in levels that I couldn't even dream before. What I love about the work we do in the Regen Ag realm is that we can really help build the bridge of all the beautiful advances we are seeing in academia and translate that to the field. So work with Dr. Lane, with people like Edward and John Lu, like Edward was talking about earlier today, is really pushing us to this frontier of regenerative ag to really change the system. And each one of you that are here today is helping us pave this road. So thank you so much for taking the time for being here. And without any further ado, Edward, you can share your screen and start your presentation.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be able to talk with you all. So I wanted to have a mix of regenerative agriculture, soil, and all that, which a lot of you already are well aware. But I've seen too often all these beautiful projects that basically are surviving, many of them. They don't have the capacity to change the system at the speed we need to changing. We're in very important moments in time of our human evolution, our civilization. And I started thinking, why are we successful at the University for International Cooperation in doing all these projects? We worked in over 40 countries. We just finished a third training program in Saudi Arabia for training the protected area managers and the park rangers not to kill the bats, for example, and actually to be able to manage. And it basically is because we have built-in project management from the beginning. So a lot of the people who are in these natural sciences, ecological sciences, agriculture, and so on, do not have the training to manage projects adequately. And it makes a huge difference if you learn project management. So I wanted to have a mix. I won't be talking too much about project management itself. We have a whole department there, but I do want to have at least the possibility to place in front of you one of the or some of the reasons why project management makes our work so effective. And we do need to be effective. We need to hurry up. So yes, we know climate change is real, of course. Is it caused by us? Yes, it's caused by us. Here, is it the root problem? No, it isn't. A lot of people think it is, but it's not. And that's one of the things I want to discuss. So how do we actually decide what is important in our work? You know, is the root problem ecological collapse? Yes, it is. Ever since 2009, it already was published in the Planetary Boundaries Approach. Can I do something about it? Of course. Can we reverse it? Yes. So instead of looking at adaptation, at reducing the impacts, we have still the opportunity to change things around and build the future we want. And that's what I've been working on for quite a few years now. How much time do we have? The first time I went to this glacier 25 years ago, it was out in the ocean. And today, my last pictures, I didn't want to show them because it's too sad. The glacier doesn't even get to the ocean. So that's how quick we're going. I don't have a crystal ball, but science is telling us we need to hurry up. If we don't clean our act, I don't know what is going to happen. I have a 13-year-old. I have a first generation of kids where I have grandkids. Just but the thought that these kids won't get to 30 years old just kills me. It makes me be, you know, awake at night. Really, I wake up in the morning saying, how can I extend the life of my child so he can actually start getting gray hair like I have? So I just want you to take 10, 15 seconds, close your eyes and think, how do you want to be living in 20 years? How do you envision your family, your surrounding, your home, your work, your friends, your country, politics, nature? I wish I had more time because this should be something for 2 or 3 minutes at least. Now, my question is, are the conditions to fulfill that dream favorable? Do we have them here? I mean, are we able to fulfill that dream? What is holding us back? We are the ones holding everything back. This is not going to come from on top. It's not going to come from the UN system. It's not going to come from the corporate world. It's going to come from us. So we need to learn how to manage things adequately to push forward a global shift. So what are we looking at? If we go to southern Chile, the Andes, Bolivia, and so on, we see these beautiful birds, and they fly way on top. So what are we looking at? What are the current challenges we are facing? Is it CO2? Are we going to solve this with electric cars? Is it a climate crisis? Is it an environmental crisis? Or is it an existential crisis? Is it actually the end of our civilization? Is it the collapse of our civilization? If we don't do anything, we are in a process of collapse. Political, environmental, social, economic, violence. It's all related to scarcity and to a model that was created to own the world by a few people. And they've succeeded making us think that capitalism is the only solution and anything else is communism should be dealt with. So we came to believe in this system. We grew up in this system, and now we have to stop this system and create a different system. That's a little bit what I want to talk. So I'm just tired of the word sustainability. I started working with I founded UCI to implement sustainability, the integration between economic, society, and culture. Already 1990s, society, environment, and economics. Already in 1996, I included culture, spirituality as main components, and then policy and governance. We need those 6 dimensions if we want to change things around. So, is sustainability still possible? Are these future generations getting the same opportunity I had when I was born? No way. We've mortgaged everything. And for what? What did we gain? What have we grown into with these methods of just sucking out the blood of nature, of people? So these future generations are actually right to be scared and right to be frustrated and right to be without hope. And now we add the exponential change that we are facing technologically. How will the planet be in 10 years with all these changes? Today, we're having one of the biggest ever cyclones in East Asia. We are seeing hurricanes in the Caribbean that at a strength that we never saw before. We got used to having 10 of these storms, 15 of these storms a year when it was every 10 years. So what are humans going to be doing in 10 years? I would say a lot of the universities are just totally ignorant of the fact that their existence is threatened right now by the speed AI is taking over professions and work and so on. What profession will still exist? These are all things we need to really understand. And how do we convert the current challenges into opportunities for new professions, for new activities? When I see the rankings of universities, I ask myself, are these universities actually preparing the people that we need to face the current challenges? I would say no. A lot of them are actually training people for competition, for egoism, for GDP instead of well-being. So if we had to, rank these universities by their impact in reverting the planetary collapse and creating conditions for life, I think the list would be completely different. So I just want to do a very quick overview of how we are. How is our home? Our home being our Mother Earth, our planet. And if we talk about CO2 as a culprit, what if I told you CO2 is our best ally, our best friend right now to revert planetary collapse? These are the challenges we have to start dealing with. Is reducing emissions enough? The whole world is concentrating on reducing CO2 emissions. Net zero, all this, that's all crap. I mean, yes, keep on doing it, but if we do not do something different, we won't get there. After, what is it, 1992, 33 years since the Rio Convention, have we done anything to revert the process? No, we haven't. And we're not going to be able to if we keep on doing the same things. So yes, we have all these graphs. We've been above 1.5 degrees centigrade for months in a row. Our ocean is increasing exponentially, the temperatures. Methane clathrate at the bottom of the ocean, it already crossed the tipping points. That alone could heat the planet 10 degrees in the next decade. And the only way to revert that is not by reducing future emissions, it's actually by capturing CO2 from the air and putting it under our feet. And that is what we have to concentrate on. That's where we can actually make the difference. So we are in code red for humanity. We don't need these graphs and the numbers and the Excel sheets to understand that we cross the tipping points. But when you see these images and people say, oh, what a loss of cars. Nobody talked about how many billion lives of animals and plants were destroyed by these same floods. That's not in the equation. When we see these hurricanes, we don't ask how many birds in Florida can fly at 200 mile per hour winds and survive. These are questions we do not ask. But now it's affecting even the rich. The rich that we thought they were untouched by all this global change and they're accumulating all the money in the world, they're now affected too. But it's not the others anymore. That's Porto Alegre. That's the city I grew up in. And right there in the middle of those two highways, which were not there when I was a kid, that was the bus stop I took the bus every morning to go to the university. And it was flooded for a month and a half last year. People had to move around in jet skis. And this is where I live on the right-hand side. Last year, we lost 60 hectares of forest at our farm with forest fires. And 3 months later, we had to actually use a snorkel in the car to be able to cross the rivers and the floods to get to my house. So this is affecting everybody around the world. We had over 600 extreme events last year with 152 unprecedented events. And today we are with unprecedented events around the world. So good friend Larry Coppold, many of you probably know him from the Carbon Underground. He says none of this has ever been caused by future emissions. So what are we doing concentrating on reducing future emissions? What is an electric car? I love electric cars. I drive one, but it's not our solution. You know, how are we still just stuck in discussing reduction of future emissions? So if we were to use a compass to guide our efforts, for me, the planetary boundaries approach has been one of the most important ones ever since their 2009 first edition. Already at that time, biodiversity loss and fertilizer use, which are low-hanging fruit. We don't need fertilizers. We should get rid of them right away. We can do it overnight. And biodiversity is resilient. Nature, we gave it 4 months vacation during COVID. Every corner of the world reported the coming back of nature, the sprouting of life. The oceans got clean, the air got clean. So we are still capable of learning from nature, working with nature. She's still saying, I'm still here, I'm resilient, if you let me. If you just let me alone, I'll survive and you'll survive. If you want to help me, then learn how to work with my wisdom. So that's one thing that we should be working on. And clearly, CO2 is not the highest risk for humanity, according to the planetary boundaries approach. Biodiversity loss is. In Latin America, our region, my region, which is the most biodiverse one in the world, has lost 95% of the abundance by 2020. It's losing 1% every 4 years. So now 4 years later, 5 years later, we've now probably around at 96.25% loss of abundance. That is critical. We have very little time to revert the damage of planetary collapse. We grew up, Gerald is witness, I don't know if he, when he was a kid, had to put all these May bugs out of the kitchen or the house. There were thousands. This year we had two of them come into our house. And we live now on a farm, not in a city. In the city, you don't see any. The last time I had to scrape a windshield to get insects off when I went on a field trip, I can't remember. My youngest son does not know what that was. That is abundance, and that is what we're losing. And the way we produce our food and fiber is responsible for 80% of planetary collapse. So yes, agriculture and the way we produce food and fiber are the solutions. They are the cause, but they're the solutions. Biodiversity is at a critical condition. It's putting us in a very critical position. What if I told you we can bring back abundance while producing great food? They don't have to be enemies. Cattle. Oh, we need to get rid of the cattle to save the planet. What if I told you we can reverse climate change with cattle? And we're demonstrating that that can happen. Water. Agriculture is the largest consumer of water. What if I told you we can reestablish the water cycle while producing food? These are not enemies. These are synergies. What is missing in the planetary boundaries approach? Soil. I was invited by the Deputy Secretary General of the Convention Against Desertification to do their side event at their COP last year in Saudi Arabia in December. And she said, I need you to bring soil and regeneration into the UN system. It is not in the conventions. Soil is not in the planetary boundaries approach. It's invisible. And when we hear Toby Kears publish that already 57% of all biodiversity is under our feet, and that's not in the textbooks. So please wake up. Let's change the way we are doing things. Erosion, soil erosion is so important. In my region, we're losing 200 tons of topsoil per hectare per year. That is 24 dump trucks loaded with a backhoe in every single hectare of farmland and dumped into the river. Is coral planting going to save the corals with all that stuff going down and full of pesticides and fertilizers? It's not. You know, how many trucks do we have to dump at the beach to turn the ocean chocolate color every time it rains? People see that as normal. I see that as beautiful, rich soil gone to the bottom of the ocean. So we don't need to increase the bridges to avoid the floods at the lowlands. We need to go up the ridge and fix the river basin. These are the soil map. This one I did, I think, a couple of years ago. You can go and Google it and do it. Dark brown is governing the world. So we are at a point where we've lost 75% of the soils. Now, what if I told you we can bring them back to life very quickly? We've regenerated soil in 2 months. That's all it takes. And what if I told you, as I said before, CO2 and nitrogen are the most precious inputs we have to revert planetary collapse. And they're free. Nitrogen is the most abundant element in the atmosphere. And CO2 too. So, and this is the gasoline for photosynthesis. That is what brought us from 4,000 parts per million to 280 pre-industrial. It was photosynthesis, but it's not by planting trees. It's by putting that carbon into the soil. The richest soil deposits were in the central US, the Great Plains, Central Africa. What were they characterized by? Big ruminants moving up and down. So we had 60 million bison with the wolves that forced them to move. So that was rotational grazing, which is the basis for holistic grazing. My good friend Alan Savory, already 50 or 60 years ago, came up with that. Why has it taken so long to change the systems? So we are in the best scientifically documented planetary extinction. We know exactly why we're committing collective suicide. We have more data, more information every year than previously. We've forgotten to turn that knowledge into wisdom. Our elders worked with wisdom, and now it's our responsibility to put that wisdom into action. So let's shift the way. We are not going to be successful saving the planet by publishing peer-reviewed journals. We're going to be successful by demonstrating to all the farmers, all the people, that we are still on time to build the future we want. And what is wisdom? Go to Wikipedia. It's the ability to think and act using knowledge, experience, understand, and common sense. It's not the result of a statistical analysis that will give us the answers. It's insight. It's experiential self-knowledge. It's ethics. It's benevolence. It's non-attachment. This is what we need. We don't need another billion peer-reviewed journals that you have to pay $30 to read. We need to shift our work. I've identified 5 challenges. I'll go very quickly. Time is running through, but the biggest one is it's not humans and nature. It's humans are nature. If we don't understand that, we're not going to be part of the regeneration movement. Until we get that, until we can consider us part of nature as one with nature, we're not going to move. Challenge 2, reductionist approach. Our universities are set up in a way that they cannot function. And this came from the Greeks. You know, when I was studying and I heard my statistics professor say, you need to decide one question, the hypothesis, and one answer. And I used to tell them, look, there are 100 questions and 100 answers, and they're all correct. You know, in nature, 1 + 1 can be 20. Oh, that's not possible. It's a true or false. And Descartes took the material world from the spiritual world apart. See, it's connected. That made us think that we had the right to dominate nature. And then Newton, wow, the father of modern science. A system works by the forces that components exert against each other. I mean, my God, no wonder we're in this mess. The other thing is we're in exponential changes. You know, all that methane that's being released with these craters, that heats the planet 86 times faster. The moment there's water and ice, it's a heat sink, because that water, that light does not get reflected back to space. It turns into infrared and absorbs. So we are in exponential processes with biodiversity loss, with technology. Challenge number 4, how have we gotten to believe in all the things that are wrong? Like, we measure development by measuring GDP. GDP increases and inequality increases at a perfect correlation. I mean, God, how have we come to believe that that has been produced by universities, by academics, by scientists? The picture in the center, that's my kid. He came and says, Dad, thank you. Now I understand why you don't let me eat these M&Ms. And he put the water, and he says, look, you're saving me from all that poison. A kid. He was 6 years old when he brought that home and did the experiment. How can we still be teaching students to put poison on the food? There is no excuse for a university to be teaching to treat pigs and chickens like that, or to plow the land. That is not correct. And the biggest challenge, and my most difficult challenge in what I do, is getting people to unlearn. Wow, you get university graduates in agronomy, and they really have to unlearn a lot and be open to that. It's not learning new things, it's being able to forget about all what they've been taught, or a lot of what they've been taught. I'm not saying everything is in the rotten bucket. So I know, I'm clear, we need to navigate very rough waters, but we're still on time to build the future we want. That is our attitude. And to do this, we need to find multiple pathways together. That's why I'm here today giving this webinar. I could be saying, oh, this is my competition. You know, we're both teaching agriculture. We're both doing... No, it's all about collaboration. As my good friend and colleague and co-worker, John DeLu, says, it's all about mass collaboration and mass communication. If not, we're not going to move forward. So let's change the picture. You know, I invite you to join us all to co-creating a future of abundance and well-being. We're still on time. Okay, now where do we start? You know, where does that tunnel lead us to light at the end? We first have to define what are we looking for. this is a community I've worked with in Honduras, way inside Rio Plátano Biosphere Reserve. One of the poorest communities in the world that I have visited. And I've seen a lot in Africa and other places. They're the happiest kids in the world. They all are smiling all the time. They don't need electronics to be happy. They don't need the Tommy Hilfiger t-shirts to be happy. They don't need the Nikes to be happy. So what are we looking for? Consumerism? Consumption? Is that going to make us happy? Or do we look for life? For living a good life? I would love my kid to grow up there. These kids were so happy. It's just amazing. To be able to start this journey, we need to understand that Mother Nature's wisdom, 3.8 billion years of wisdom, is what we need to tap into. And functional biomimicry is the tool that we have. We use it permanently. We give courses on functional biomimicry at the university. So we need to understand that we are one with nature. But for that, we have to reinvent ourselves. We need a new sprout. And I used to be very revolutionary. I would be called, anti-capitalism, all these insults when I talked. And I thought we needed a revolution. I took the R away. We need an evolution. It's not fighting the system. Bucky Fuller says it brilliantly. So we need to go from that ego society to an eco society. Transition through the eco. That is not our target. That could be our target 20 years ago. Now it's SEVA. Humanity in service of life. All life. This is, for me, what regeneration is about. And yesterday, my wife gave a talk at the World Biosphere Congress in China, in the plenary. And one of the participants asked, can we validate scientifically indigenous knowledge? And she says, indigenous knowledge does not require to be validated by Western science to be valid. It is just as valid or even more than Western science. I was so proud to hear that globally coming out finally. And people are just, oh my God, the science says, no, we have to validate that information. No, we don't. I learned from Lacandones how to regenerate. This is the same land, degraded land. Manuel, who's a Lacandon, he's blind. He's blonde because he's albino. But who could regenerate land? Manuel Castellanos. We've learned how to work with him. And I stuck my hand in this mulch. Look at the hyphae there. You smell it and it's just delicious. So yes, indigenous knowledge, the true one. We have a lot of fake out there. So that's where I came up with this model of regeneration. It's Mother Earth at the bottom, functioning biospheres, biodiversity, ecosystems at the landscape level. So bioregional development will be the future. It won't be national development. It will be at bioregional level where we have identity. At the other side of the vortex of the toroid is spirituality. And when I brought spirituality in 1996 and I talked to other universities, and especially with presidents and provosts and so on, they immediately thought, oh, that's religion. No, it has nothing to do with religion. And they asked me, how do you measure it? You can't measure it. How do you teach it? You can't teach it. Well, then what the heck? That was the answer I got from a provost of a university I was signing an agreement with. I got up and I didn't sign the agreement. Then we need to regenerate the economics. We need to regenerate the society. It has to be active, proactive, has to decide its future. We don't need somebody at the top building of a glass office telling us what to do for our life. We need culture to regenerate culture. Culture is the glue. It's in the North, it's about buying art or going to an opera. Culture in the South is the glue that holds us together. It gives us identity. It makes me different than Japanese and Europeans. And that's, I'm half German. But culture is the most important element to not dominate a community. It has been destroyed because it's easy to govern if you break people apart. So the destruction of culture has been on purpose. This country where I'm in, our democracy is in danger. Our current president is a mini Trump, and he has defunded culture, education, and environment to create chaos, to be able to get reelected the party. So governance and politics have to be regenerated too. And we need young women in there. We need empathy We don't need wallets making decisions. So what's the definition? It's just being in service of life. And what for? Let's go and measure this with well-being instead of GDP. I call it in Spanish, for those who understand Spanish, Producto Interno para Brutos, because it was never correlated with development. This is another beautiful tool which I use all the time, the three horizons. If you don't know what it is, Google Kate Rayworth, who's a good friend of mine from the Kate Donut Economics. Google her and put three horizons. Look at her 6-minute video. It just explains it beautifully. So we're in a paradigm that's losing its fit for purpose, and we need to transition to a regenerative system. And how do we do it? It's complex, it's step by step, but we need to move away and consider what we need to keep from this current paradigm. Not everything has to be thrown out, but how do we actually transition in that innovative transformation of our lives? And again, never change the system by fighting it. Build another one, a new one that will make the old one obsolete. So that's how regeneration can move forward. So we're talking about complexity. Everything is interconnected. We're talking about exponentiality. We're talking about collaboration instead of competition. We're talking about action instead of conversation. We need to get our act together. Landing on soil. This is part of the first 7 vortex drawing I did to start our video, which we presented at the site event in Riyadh, as I mentioned. Everything is connected. And this graph is not even complete. If I put all the bubbles there, you wouldn't be able to follow anything. But if we look into it, soil health is connected to regenerative agriculture, to biodiversity, to soil erosion, to carbon sequestration, to ecosystem health, to human health. Carbon sequestration is connected to a lot of different things. All of these dimensions. Poverty is connected to even more bubbles. So if we want to solve poverty, we don't manage to do it through the Ministry of Economics or through the Department of Economics of a university. We need to start working on a holistic approach. We need to understand that our human health is related to soil health, is related to the soil microbiome. That's how we cure human chronic diseases in the future, not with antibiotics and medicine. And that has to do with climate regulation, has to do with water cycle and clean water. It has to do with plant and ecosystem health, nature health. Otherwise, we're not healthy. And it has to do with culture. It has to do with principles of good nutrition. I'm in a blue zone. I'm not sure for how many years it's going to be a blue zone because people are eating hamburgers and French fries. So have we failed? Why are we not moving forward? What type of leadership do we need to move the regenerative movement forward and turn it into a massive movement? What skills are required for this? How can we actually tackle complexity effectively, efficiently? And this is where project management comes in. We need to learn project management. We're famous as a university for 2 things. All our work in regeneration, nature, protected areas, and so on, and project management. We brought project management to Latin America and the Caribbean. Our first master's program was the first one in Latin America and the Caribbean. We've been a long-term partner with PMI, Project Management Institute, since 1999. We launched the first master's program there. And with Green Project Management since 2013. Not only that, now we're even tighter in our work with Green Project Management. So it has been present for decades. When we brought it down here, we couldn't convince people that it was actually a profession. We started the first cohort with 4 students, and then for many years we opened one as soon as it filled up, and that was every 5 or 6 weeks. So many of our regenerative initiatives are not successful because people are not trained to manage adequately the projects. And we have to look at it as a project or have a program with several projects in it. So we're actually looking for partners. This is not something that's written in stone already. We are still developing all of this. We're still seeing how we can integrate regeneration more into project management. And finally, through our work with GPM, now there's an alliance between PMI and GPM. I'll talk about it in a few minutes. But so it is about a systematic approach with skills, tools, and techniques. We don't have to invent the wheel. We have all these tools that help us, define constraints like the scope, the time, the budget. How many projects do we see that run out of budget and need a phase 2 or a phase 3 to finish? And it's because of lack of correct implementation. How many resources are not well spent, and then our donors don't want to keep on subsidizing it because we don't have the impact. We're changing maybe a pilot project, but how do we get from that pilot project to our whole province or whole country? How do we understand that a project has a beginning and has an end, and it's a one-time cyclic event that has all these tools? And this is where we have really been a pioneer in bringing regeneration into project management, and we still need to develop that further. So it ensures success, yes. It provides frameworks for this. The management of resources controls the cost, achieves objectives, drives change. This is what we need to do with our regenerative projects in agriculture, in whatever dimension we're working with. How do we define objectives? Is it restoring soil health? Is it enhancing biodiversity through food web restoration? Is it increasing carbon sequestration? What if I say all of the above? That's a different scope of a project. So what are we concentrating in? How do we design this so we have a purpose and a direction to go into and be effective and actually get over the next 3 to 4 or 5 years before we collapse completely our biodiversity system to make changes? So this is what we need to move forward. We need to get those skills that people need. I always said, soft skills is a horrible term. I call them the most critical skills. It's not the hard skills, the math and physics that's going to get us out of this mess. It is those critical skills: empathy, communication, negotiation, problem solving, leadership. And we have all these knowledge areas. I won't go into it. It just will take me too long. But risk management, how do we build it in from the beginning? Risk management, you don't deal with risk once it shows up. You deal with risk when you're planning the project and you analyze which are the risk factors, and you can actually plan mitigation of them way from the beginning and save a lot of resources. Procurement management, you don't go and buy stuff just because you're out of it. It has to be planned in the project. Hiring a staff, you don't want to hire 100% of the staff for a project at the beginning. You'll need to hire them as you go along, going with the intensity curve. All of these things are, managing meetings, not to go talking forever and meeting 10 times in a row without moving forward. All of these skills are dealt with when you learn project management. So time management, negotiation, empathy, these are all aspects. Empathy is actually not within the traditional PMI framework, but for me, understanding the local culture is fundamental. We need to actually understand their values, their reasons for this. So now Project Management Institute and Green Project Management have started a new venture to bring regeneration into project management. And I can say that we are proud at UCI that we were the ones influencing this whole thing at the global level. I've been working with Green Project Management for now. We're partners since 2013. We were partners of the year twice already. And Joel Carboni, he actually published this book, Get It. It's very easy to read, inspirational, and very clear. I mean, becoming regenerative as a project manager, as the CEO of a project management organization, Green Project Management, that when PMI looked at it and said, oh, we want to buy you out. And he said, no, we're not for sale, but we'll do a joint venture to move things forward. So please look at this. It's easy to read. I did the foreword. Joel is a great person. He has been moving this. He started, when I met him, he was working with sustainability, with SDGs and all that. Now he understands that those things are not solving our issues. And I'm so happy to keep on working with him. So we're here now, and we need to move into that future. How can we do it? To start showing that regeneration is possible, to build that new paradigm that will make the old one obsolete, I cannot convince farmers not to use chemicals. I have to show them that it works, and then they can start transitioning. So we started Costa Rica Regenerative already in 7 years ago. John Fullerton from Capital Institute was here. Steve Cohen from Buckminster Fuller Institute today was here. Hunter Lovins was here for that launch. And then we started this whole network around the world. So when I look at that regeneration has to be bioregional, we need to stack these dimensions and work through them, not across them. It's not a disciplinary approach, it's through them, looking at a bioregion from its function up. And the spiritual dimension is highly important. It's dynamic, it's a coevolution, and we need to start measuring the well-being for all life forms. What about measuring for happiness, like the Bhutan Happy Planet Index? So landscapes, bioregional approach, how do we get those to function? We need to go beyond pilot projects. It's useless, and it's not useless, but it's not as impactful to work in a 10-acre plot than in 10,000 acres. So we need to look at the governance of bioregions. What are the global priorities and how do we align the local priorities? We cannot come with recipes under our arm to local bioregions, say, we have the solutions. No, we have to learn how to deep listen and ask and listen to their proposals, their priorities. How do we scale this work? Who are the participants that we need to bring into our efforts? We need to understand that agriculture is biology. It's not chemistry. If it were chemistry, then let's put a stamp on it. Eat this food. It's chemical, delicious, healthy. Why do the good people have to spend all this money? We know nutrient density is a lot higher. We're working with Dan Kittredge, who's doing huge works advancing nutrient density. All these people working, Zach Bush, on the microbiome, and we're using Zach Bush Ion Plus to cure our microbiome and our gut and get healthy. All of this is the new medicine. We already know this. How do we bring it together? This is Guanacaste during COVID. We started with these degraded soils, and after 2 months, 3 months, this is what we got. Up to 10 tons per hectare per month, sorry. 10 tons per hectare per month, produced by communities that had no experience in farming. Abundant food without a drop of chemicals. Look at that harvest. I mean, these were people that didn't have what to eat before we started these projects. We got 500 families to produce, harvesting water using indigenous knowledge. We got these 500 families to actually produce food regeneratively. I remember a mother saying, hey, look at the kids. Look, their eyes are shiny again after this good food. And we didn't like bitter food. You taught us we took cooks to teach them how to eat bitter food, which they didn't want to. We had to start with schools, with communities, with technical schools. I'm so proud to have seen these 15-year-old girls flying drones to do all the mapping of the farms we were working with. This is what we need to do. Be inclusive. We need to recover all the wildlife, all the genes. Forget those certified seeds. Forget the GMOs. We need to go back to using the highest diversity of nutrients possible before they get captured by the multinationals. There's more quinoa produced now in the US than in the Andean countries. But we also were able to turn these degraded soils into paradise for insects. And people thought we were crazy. People from the Ministry of Agriculture, people from other universities, how are you growing insects instead of crops? Well, after a year, we increased populations 20-fold, and 94% to 97%, depending on the farm, were good insects that help control the pests. So we got to an ecosystem. A forest does not need pesticides to survive. So in agriculture, we don't need it either. We have the science. We know we can revert climate change just by managing soils alone. And this is a traditional Western scientist. So we have the science. the Rodale Institute, if we would change our grazing systems to holistic, we could be capturing more carbon per year than what's released by the global economy. If we add regenerative agriculture, we could be fixing 150% of the carbon that's in the atmosphere, putting it beneath our feet. This is where the solution is. If we get resources to expand this globally, we can be at less than 400 parts per million in 10 years. Ask Zeth Itzkan from Soil for Climate. Farmers don't need the MRV. They can just look at the different color in their soils and they know it's happening. Well, but we do need the MRV. And Nature Tech Collective, we're working closely with them. I was actually a co-founder of the MRV Collective, which preceded Nature Tech Collective. How do we measure life? How do we measure biodiversity? How do we measure soils? We are doing great advances. I'm on Soil Information Board. We have now these sensors that can measure soil metabolism real time. This will change the carbon market. This will change regenerative agriculture because we're able to measure carbon on a real-time basis, organic, inorganic, bacterial fungal ratio, nitrogen, humidity, real time with these sensors. Technology is there to help us. Cattle, and have to rush a little bit. I said it was 45 minutes. I'm already there. We can revert climate change using cattle. We launched the Savory Hub a few years ago. It's called Suelos Vivos, Living Soils. We first looked at biological corridors and connectivity and how we can actually look at the landscape level. And then at each farm, we identify which are the areas we can give back. So through holistic grazing, I can intensify production. We can double, triple the amount of cattle in less land. So we fund this process of migration through carbon funds. It's the first global carbon money that goes into cattle instead of killing it. And we can get biological connectivity. Between 5 and 30% of every farm can be given back to nature. And there we increase biodiversity. All the regeneration is along river lines. Those are the three white areas there that used to be rivers flowing. Now it's only when it rains. By regenerating those biological corridors, those rivers come back to life. The farm has water during the dry season. It's a win-win-win strategy. This is the project we signed, the first phase. It's a $20 million. Sounds like a lot of money, but if you put it on 4 years and try to get a cattle farmer to sign a contract for 40 years, that's a tough one. But we're getting there, and the project is already running. We need to measure biodiversity. Bats are half the mammal species. They're vital for ecosystem. People are killing them because they make noise in their houses, in the roofs. No, we need to measure and learn how to measure biodiversity. We've been working on biodiversity indexes. And now we have Rancho Cosmos where I'm living. That's where I'm living. Can you believe that? Look at the ocean in the back. I don't see this because I'm not the lowland, but if I climb up the hill, I can see the ocean from our farm. We're turning it into a global center for regeneration for people to come and visit. So we're dealing with water management. We're straightening the drainage canals that are being built all over the place to get the water out during the rainy season. We have to change them. We make them serpentine. We get these curbs in and we start reducing the water runoff. We harvest it. We reforest all the places where rivers water flows during the rain, and that 15 minutes later it's gravel floor. We in a month have reestablished the water systems just by working with the land. And there's my son collecting shrimp and fish that have come back very quickly. So nature's there with us. This is our biodiversity team. We actually yesterday we looked at the camera traps. We have ocelots, we have deer, we have coyotes, and we want to get more of them coming back. So we're getting rid of a lot of things, teak and other things, and bringing back to nature. So we're creating conditions for biodiversity to thrive beyond conservation, beyond reducing impact, beyond reducing damage. We are actually creating conditions to bring it back. Pollinator gardens. This farm didn't have butterflies when I came. It didn't have hummingbirds. Now I can sit out there at 5 in the morning and I see the buzzing. I hear the buzzing of all these hummingbirds from different species. Quickly, I'm here a year and a half. So it's all possible. We combine practices. I'm not going to find if it's permaculture or if it's syntropic or if it's this or that. our wisdom holder, Mel Landers, in agriculture, he's been working with indigenous knowledge for 50 years. He says our farmers need the permaculture without the yoga. So holistic grazing plus biodiversity, it's not holistic grazing. How can I increase biodiversity at the landscape level through holistic grazing? Holistic grazing is my instrument. And I can avoid erosion. I can bring productivity back. I can bring insects back. I can bring diversity in the paddocks. But around the whole thing, I'm also increasing biodiversity. And that is our goal, bring life back. Getting rid of teak. Teak was put all over this province. It's horrible. It's a disgrace, you know. And I learned from the Lacandones how to use balsa to regenerate. Don't plant trees in the sunshine in the tropics. Use balsa. After a year and a half, they have a canopy and they start producing mulch. And then you can enrich it with other species under that canopy. And you don't have to start cutting the grass so it doesn't overgrow the trees that you planted. Yes, we are planting trees, 9,000 some this year. Great. It's part of the solution, but we cannot concentrate only on that solution. There you can see a balsa wood growing in grass. Biophil here in Nicoya, our closest town, we managed to start working with the mayor, and now they're thinking of a biophilic city. And we did this with the previous mayor who declared in another city, Courriabat, pollinators as citizens, earthworms as citizens, and started planning the city development through the eyes of a pollinator. All these things are possible. Biological corridors, this is Nicoya. How can we actually crisscross the city with biological corridors to bring biodiversity back, cool the temperatures down, and make conditions for life better for adults and for children, for example? We have developed a urban regenerative award on how to, we're gentrifying our coast here, all these billionaires moving in and building everything. But okay, let's try to help them do it better so they don't destroy nature. Culture and tradition, we need to support that. It's fundamental. This is where people identify as a group. It comes from agriculture. The term agriculture is the relationship of us with our land through thousands of years. That's where our food comes from. That's where our difference from Mexico to Peru or to Japan. It's based on food. It's based on our relationship with the land. All of that has been substituted by green revolution all across the planet, the same thing. No, we need to recover the traditional plants and animals that were used by communities. How do we come together? I'll be about 2 more minutes before I can finish. I got tired of looking at these pilot projects, beautiful pilot projects around the world without an impact. Many people don't even know they exist. So we started thinking about how can we bring regenerators, experts, success projects, knowledge, wisdom, bioregions to create a global learning and co-creation community. So we launched in April, and we're still in the development phase, but it's there, the Mycelium Learning Network. So we can collectivize wisdom to regenerate the planet at a large scale. You can look at it. It's myceliumlearning.com. So it brings in the best teachers, the best mentors around the world. Everybody can load up a course. Any of you can load up a course. There is a process. We don't want everybody that doesn't know how to help facilitate a learning process online because you don't teach online. So we accompany that. We have standards. We have quality control. But the idea is that teachers from around the world can upload courses in regeneration. When a student clicks on that course, they're asynchronous. They will get 35% of the payment right away. So I have staff around the world that are not on my payroll, and everybody wins. So what we're looking for is this new relationship between humans and the planet. And we're still on time to build the future we want. And most of the problems in life come because of two reasons. We act without thinking, and we keep thinking without acting. So are you going to be part of this movement, or are you just going to sit back and look at this new normal and accept how to learn in a collapsing planet? Will we finally be able to do it on time?
Just wow. so much amazing info to process, Edward. I think that all of us need like a couple seconds to absorb everything. I'm speechless, to be honest. It's just like so much amazing information, how you made us shake so many concepts in our heads. Thank you so much for this. This is much needed, and I think that I can speak for all of us here that we need more. We want more. So thank you so much, and we really hope this is just the first opportunity to hear from you.
I want action from you guys. I don't want congratulations and thank yous. I want action. I want you to join the movement, go to Mycelium. We're working on the individual things, but you can, if you're working on a project, a bioregion, make sure you upload it. We'll have directories working. The draft versions are already open, but they're not open to the public. But search engines, everything. We want to get people, special people, that know what they're doing up there. So you can actually then go into the platform and say, I want to learn indigenous regenerative tourism. Where can I see who's working on that? And then Vanessa Kawa will show up in Peru in the Sacred Valley. And then this other group working in the Amazon and this other working group in Mexico. And you can actually link to them. So it's a dynamic LinkedIn. And the idea is to bring in the bioregion. So we have this whole theoretical cloud with all the experts in the world. Kate Rayworth has been teaching with us for years. John Fullerton, Stuart Cohen, Steve Waddell, all these people who you've heard and probably read their books, they've been our teachers for now several years. Now, it's hard to get them to do online webinars like this, so we can actually upload these courses. Asynchronous, you can do it at your own pace. Students can actually choose their own learning pathway. So anybody has their decision what they want to learn. So we're working on a AI companion that will then allow the student, when they register, I'm coming from here, I'm from Brazil. I have learned this. I never went to university, but I have interest and I grew up at a farm and I want to be doing this. And the bot will tell you, okay, go and do Melina Angel's course on biomimicry so you understand how nature works and nature's wisdom. If you want to, you can take 2 or 3 courses if you want to go in depth. And then go do Edward's course on regenerative development. And then you go and do Ronald Sistek's course on how to bring regeneration into companies. And then you can go and work with Carolina Fernandez and see how she has managed to shift large organizations to build their structure based on nature's functions. And then there'll be certifications like badges. So at the end, you'll have a 5-badge process. So we actually are linking all these courses with bioregions. So I'm bringing the Restoration Communities Network with John D. Liu, the Biosphere Reserve Network. There's 759 sites globally, probably a few more after this meeting in China right now. All these beautiful experiences, land nodes with success that are invisible. So we use AI, we go and scrape their webs when they have webs, and sometimes they're very old webs, which they did with a grant 10 years ago. We get that information, we put it into the site, and then we send it back to the owners. They can fill in what's missing, put photos and whatever. It can actually turn into their own webpage afterwards. And then they're visible, so you can actually find them. And as a student, you're on this global course with all these global experts, and you say, let's see who's in my neighborhood, who's in my bioregion, who's doing what. And he can go and work with them today. So
That's powerful.
This is a learning community. This is what I tried to do it with Seven Vortex. I don't know if you've used Seven Vortex. I brought Ugo, who's the owner, together with his wife. He co-created Seven Vortex. I had him here for a year and a half, but it was very difficult to get the experts in programming that. Today, AI is doing a lot of it. So we moved to Web 2 and Web 3, but now we finally have it available. And I think we can actually move forward more quickly. Everybody that understands regeneration can show it to students, can show it to bioregions, can show your work. And I think that will allow us to turn this into a massive movement. We don't have time anymore for only pilot projects.
That's true. Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you. It's my homework for today. Jump in on Mycelium and see how we can help to build the
Yeah,
system.
as I said, we're still adding in during the next few
Yeah,
weeks a lot of AI components and stuff, but please go in, register, and I think the more people we have involved, the faster that community is going to grow.
that's true. So let's start the Q&A with the first question. Edward, you mentioned that collaboration and project management have been core features of your project success. Can you give examples of impactful and transformative projects that you are proud of?
Oh, yes. I can go back in history. For example, establishment of biosphere reserves. We've helped establish over a dozen. Cape Horn, for example, way down south. We started by doing the mapping. I had the privilege, and as a photographer, a real privilege for myself, to be able to crisscross Tierra del Fuego by boat, by foot, by horse, places where very few people have been in the world, and design a whole strategy to declare it a biosphere reserve. The last effort we did there, we extended to the marine mountain range that's under the ocean. And it's now a emblematic biosphere reserve. They're working on recovering all the indigenous knowledge, Ricardo Rossi. I can mention projects like we designed the whole educational system for the protected area management of Bolivia, from the national agency to the department agency, that's Beni, Santa Cruz, and so on, and the municipal. And we developed a curriculum, and we taught a university, from the Amazon, to actually deliver the curriculum and train their own people, so we didn't have to be there all the time. Yeah, as I said, we just finished training the protected area managers in Saudi Arabia. Now they're understanding how to actually go from a zoo type management to an ecological management for long-term conservation. We coined the term regenerative tourism many, many years ago, and look at it now. Google regenerative tourism. It's all over the place. And the Regenerative Tourism Alliance, what's it called? I can't remember the name right now. It was set up by our graduates. So that's also a success story. The thing is, I'm not a good project manager myself, but we have a project management office at the university, and they make sure that projects are run correctly and put me in order, because I'm going all over the place. I'm like, and they, no, stop, give me this. Oh my God, how boring. Yeah, but boring, but at the end, we save a lot of money, we save a lot of time. Um, so yeah, we've done so many projects in so many different countries. But it just helps to have people in your team that understand how to design the project correctly, how to define the scope correctly, how to define the budget correctly, how to define a risk analysis. So are you going to make changes in the middle? How do
Mhm.
you make the changes? Do you have a contingency plan? I remember one of our teachers saying he used to work at a bank, and they set up a ATM machine at the airport. And the manager of the bank came and said, "Why don't you put that ATM machine over there?" And the guy said, "Okay, if you pay the study of the traffic of people, if you pay all of that from another budget, I can move it. I'll leave it there." Because it just has a whole system where you have the numbers behind it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that Gerald, chime in when you want, but you touched on a very, very sensitive point. A good project is not made by one person. We need a team, and we see this here daily basis with our students. Is we have one mentor that's the face, but we have the whole school working with every single student. So I think that's where the power of the Regen Ag movement lies on, is that we are really building up this process together. So
Yeah.
what do you think, Gerald?
No, I just wanted to say, Edward, we see these types of presentations often, and it's great that you were able to make it mind-blowing for us, even though we see these topics, like almost every day. It was really a great presentation. I like how you focus on action. I think that's very important. It is annoying for me to sometimes see like the speed at which things are moving, in the academia, because it doesn't seem to have any connection with what we need to do. So I absolutely agree with you. I agree with the focus on all knowledge is valid, all knowledge is powerful. We don't necessarily need to put things in peer-reviewed articles for it to be valid. I really like that. And you really made me think that I need to learn a lot more about project management. I also wanted to say that it's really important for people to collaborate. A really, you know, easy thing, and I am relatively young, I am 29, but I grew up with this mindset, with the conventional mindset, and that is what I was taught in the university. So I have been doing a lot of this, new learning and de-learning what I learned in the university on learning, right? One of the things is I didn't know how helpful it is to have a biologist or a sociologist in a project where you want to regenerate a space. And we are doing that in Harmonia, and we have discovered how important it is to understand the society, our culture, and how the plants are connected to our culture, to our origins. That is valuable, and I didn't know about that. I learned that until I started with this project with all these people. The amount of knowledge that biologists can bring into this is just amazing. And 5 years ago, I would have thought that, okay, biologists do this, agronomists do this, but now I have understood that we really have to work together. And that's really how action happens. I wanted to highlight that. And yeah, I completely agree with you that we need to take action. That's what we really need to do. We're running out of time for that.
In project management, we offer a master's program. Actually, there's one starting this week in English and in Spanish. It's an 18-month program, and it's only $7,400, I think. But we also offer short courses. So there's Scrum, there's all these agile project management methodologies for somebody that just wants a refresher or wants to understand the basics before they dive into a master's program. There are all of these different alternatives. So you can just start with something small, or you can dive in if you have the time into a full master's program. That's where you'll get all the depth required. But clearly, teamwork is the basis, and you need different people. I always say that this is not me. It's a whole team behind me. I have the kids that are measuring bats and butterflies and bees. I can see them right now. They're walking out with a ladder. They're going to put a camera trap up in a tree in the forest. We have this whole team. We have people working in tourism and have been working in tourism for years. I worked with ecotourism for a long time, but I don't have the time anymore to be in all these things. So it's a team, and that's the good thing about having an organization or a university behind you, because you have all these different people in the back, and that's where you learn. And I, as a president, have to learn from every program a little bit. So it just makes me understand more of the need to look at with a wide angle from that condor look from the top.
Yeah, that's powerful. With that lead, I'm gonna go to the next question, which I believe that connects with a lot you're talking by now. I've seen that Costa Rica leads the world in terms of protecting and restoring biodiversity in forests, and also leads the world in terms of consumption of synthetic agrochemicals. How do you reconcile these statistics? Could you tell us more about the dynamics of degradation and regeneration in Costa Rica?
This is a tough one because I always get very hyped up. We are our current state, political state, is a disaster, as many other countries. We have a right-wing evangelical group these groups are coming together. They're actually have not done anything in 3 years except cut budgets. So education was cut in half the budget. We used to invest over 8.3% of our GDP in education. The last year was 4.5. I don't know how to reconcile anything. The person in charge as a minister to cut that budget was my sister, my true sister. Both last names are the same. So that's the level of conflict I'm facing with. Um, the only way to reduce pesticides, it's not with negotiating with Chiquita, Dole, and these. Maybe somebody else is doing it, they can keep on doing it. I got fed up. The Biodiversity Restoration as America, I saw too much greenwash. I had to resign as president after the second period. Um, the only way is to show that we can do it differently. So we can grow pineapple without pesticides, without chemicals. And of course, we have to teach the public, we cannot expect pineapples to produce at 6 months. We cannot expect them to produce all year round without hormones because it's a yearly plant. They produce one pineapple a year. With these chemicals, they're producing full time. Now, we need to get people to understand that, yeah, if you want to eat pineapple all year round at a very cheap price, yes, you're killing people, literally killing people. We saw the first research on the amount of pesticides in water because the amount of kids with cancer, gastric cancer, were huge. A lot more than any other part of the country. And they went to look at it, and it was the companies. And so people that are buying a pineapple for €1 in Germany, they have to understand that that's a blood-stained pineapple, just like the blood-stained avocados from Mexico. And changing that consumerism is going to take time. I don't have the time to do that. I was an activist for 40 years. I don't have the time now. But the only way is to show it. So we can get farmers to produce good pineapple, even better flavor, without the chemicals, without those 2 meter deep drainage things that just wash out the soil, without all these hormones, without all these other, labor. The labor conditions are miserable, illegal labor conditions and stuff like that. The only way to do it is demonstrating that we can do it differently and getting more farmers to produce pineapple the correct way and getting I think Dan Kittredge is after something. He's trying to put that sensor into a cell phone. So the day we have a cell phone with a sensor that can tell us this tomato is regenerative because it has 30 times more nutrients than chemical and 15 times more nutrients than organic. Who is going to buy chemical from, whatever these big companies are? Nobody. But we have to be able to measure it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Dan is into something hot. And there's a reason why he wants to keep it open source. And there's a reason why I wish people would just donate money to him for him to get this quickly onto the market. All this money is being put in to do things less damageable, billions of dollars in the chemical agriculture. It's not going to cut it. So we need to invest the money where it should be going.
Yeah, that's powerful. It's all about what we want versus what we need, right?
Yes.
And I think that's where it becomes complex. Sorry, Carla. I think that's where it
Go ahead.
becomes complex and where you really have to think about all the factors, because all of this is also a consequence of a system. Like you said, Edward, capitalism, I think is a big thing, that has caused all this. And for example, in the region where I live, the biggest issue is the growers. They work in small properties. Their investment capabilities are not huge. And so they usually depend on what the agri-service tells them to do. And sometimes the agri-service wouldn't even visit them. They just go, to the agri-service. They tell them the symptoms they are seeing, and the agri-service tells them, okay, this is what you need to do. And this is what you have to pay for. I don't blame the growers because that's all the information they have access to. There really has to be a change in the system where these people can have the information, they can access, all these different ways of doing things, because they do it just because that's all the information they have. That's all people who are currently helping them, or at least that's what they feel.
Part of the restructuring of the government, which was launched by Oscar Arias and with the support of the World Bank, of course, and the International Monetary Fund, was reducing the state. So we had 1,200 extensionists in the Ministry of Agriculture 30 years ago, 20 years ago. It was reduced to 100 and some. on purpose. And who is visiting the farmers every month? The chemical companies.
Yeah.
They have the people going around and saying they sell vitamins A, D, E to cattle producers in the tropics. I mean, D is sunshine, A is the green grass, E is, because you have to store the food and it oxidizes. It's it's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's a waste of money. But they are the ones visiting the farmers because it wasn't to make the state more efficient. It was to privatize agricultural services. We have to put the name as it is. This
Yep.
whole system is rigged by the system. What you can I don't want to say
Each
bad
one
names,
give the name they want.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it is planned. This is not by chance. It's not by chance that university. I used to teach at one university in the States, and I quit when they published a paper saying bees were not dying because of pesticides; they were dying because of parasites. And I looked into
Oh.
it, and they had a $6 million grant from Dow Chemical.
Oof. Okay.
That is corrupt. That is corrupt. We tried to put labels on GMO products brought into Costa Rica. Two universities said it wasn't possible because they brought these big container boats and it was very hard to track the origin of the different grains. Bullshit. We have the right to understand if we're buying GMOs or not. And then I looked into it and they had grants from these companies.
Yeah, you touch on a very sensitive point, and I think that I believe that we, the society, forget that we have the power. We let politicians, the big ag companies, everyone decide what we can, what we cannot do, and we are the ones that should be pushing the limit that I don't want to buy this, I need that. And stop buying, stop consuming. It's like you said before, it's really like we have the power to shift where we need to go, but we doubt ourselves daily basis because all the propaganda that we're listening every day. You need this vitamin, you need that, you need this, you need this, because the fruit don't have that. Of course it does. It doesn't. There's only chemicals there. So it's just like until when we can understand that we humans hold, and by humans I mean here the consumers, hold the power to really shift the system, we're going to be fighting against each other and against the system.
No, we don't fight the system. Pay attention to Bucky Fuller. He's wise.
That's
Let's
true.
build a better
Yes.
system that will make the old and obsolete. That's what Costa Rica Regenerativa is about. I'm not going to change the whole country, but I'm
Hmm.
demonstrating that we can, one, not kill cattle. And if I can extend this to all the grazing areas in Costa Rica, if I had the resources, we would be fixing 140% of our carbon footprint every year. And that will zip close the mouth of all the people
That's
saying we
true.
have to be vegan to save the planet.
The-
Our decarbonization strategy in Costa Rica is based on electric mobility. I resigned to the Scientific Council for Climate Change, appointed by the last president, because I couldn't get my colleagues to bring in soil as the key to solve climate change. They
Mhm.
said it's not proven well enough. It's too variable. Okay, now we have sensors that we can measure soil metabolism. That might make me happy. But yeah, we need to move away from this reductionist thinking to this holistic
True.
understanding and starting that we are nature and we can learn from nature's wisdom.
Beautiful. And since you touched the point of carbon capture, carbon and everything, this question comes from Emma. What are some examples of methods to capture carbon in the soil? How does this capture process work? In a couple
It's
minutes,
it
if possible.
yeah, it's very simple. Look at plants when plants moved up to land from the ocean, they didn't have roots. And the mycelium was the one that got the minerals and nutrients and fed it directly to the plants. The plants then grew roots, not only to get the nutrients themselves, but actually to feed the mycelium and feed the microbiome. So plants, as a grass grows, it produces sugars and fats, and that feeds the microbiome. The bacteria that fix nitrogen free of charge from the air grow in those mycorrhizals, right? So when the CO2 is there in the air, the plant captures it and grows roots. As the plant grows, it grows roots and it digs those roots into the soil. If we let the, I'll take an example of grazing cattle. If we let the grass grow to an adequate height, it will have roots, depending on the species, but 2 to 3 meters deep. When the cow eats it, it will release a tremendous biomass of carbon because of the release of the roots. And as it grows new leaves, it will grow new roots. If the cow is not separated and can come back and graze that grass 3 days later, the roots will get smaller and smaller and smaller because it releases roots according to the biomass that's on top. So that's where rotational grazing allows a maximum of root system to be under the ground. And it's a biomass very equivalent to what the grass is on top. That carbon won't be captured in the soil for a long time. It can be released. But when a mycelium extends itself out and comes back, and it can do that 1.5 meters a day, it leaves these little carbon tunnels, iron and clay and so on. And the carbon that's inside there is safe from the bacteria, so it cannot be degraded. That's where long-term storage comes. So we have 50% of the carbon in the soil is necromass. It's dead organisms. So it's a dynamic process. The moment you till that and you break the mycelium apart, you start releasing that carbon. So we just have to look back to history. I mean, we had 4,000 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere. It came down to 280 pre-industrial because plants put it into the soil, not because they put it into the trunks of the trees, because they put it into the trunks in the soil. And that's where the biggest storage was. That's where oil it comes from. So we need to put it back into the soil. And that's the best method. And the best method is regenerative agriculture.
Beautiful. Thank you for so much information in a short time. So we are on the top of the hour. We had so many more questions. I hope that we can manage a next webinar with you soon to cover all the questions. We appreciate each one of you guys that put your question, but unfortunately don't have time to go over all of them. Eduard, thank you so much. And I open up once more the words for you for the last message of the day. What else how else you can blow our minds?
Reach out all of our hands. Let's hold hands together. Let's start walking together. Let's move forward together. Let's not compete anymore. Let's collaborate. Everyone has something to say. So if you want to use Mycelium Learning Network, there are others out there too. We're trying to not duplicate anything and collaborate, but that's a good way to keep in touch. And we need your experiences. We need those who are working on land nodes, for example, and have pilot projects successful. What Gerald is doing. This has to be accessible not through a peer-reviewed journal that 30 people can read a year. It has to be open access. It has to be free. It has to be available. So let's all get together and start making the shift. We need 13% of the world population to shift, and then it will shift alone, the rest. And forget about the 1%. I want to see them eat their money in their bunkers in the future. It's not going to happen. So
I
we
love
still
that.
have time. We still have time to build the future we want. We need to give hope to youth and guidance, especially now with AI eliminating so many jobs. Let's get them to build their future together with us. Let's go for it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Gerald, what else can we talk about today, Gerald? One last word for the day?
Well,
It's
again,
hard to follow up, right?
I was speechless after the presentation. Well, no, I would say let's establish connections. All people here in this webinar, if you feel like there is people around you that you have seen in the chat that are doing all these things, try to reach out to each other, try to reach out organizations who are working on this. Collaboration is really the key. And hopefully this is not only a nice webinar where we learned a lot and that we enjoyed. Hopefully we take this into action and start really contributing for a better planet. That's what I would say.
Yeah, powerful. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you, Edward. I myself have only to agree and follow the steps that Edward and Gerald posed so nicely here. You guys know how to reach us. Please make use of the community we are building together. Share your experience, share your ideas. Like Edward said, we need to work as a team. Doesn't matter where you are on this planet. One lesson from you can help me better see how can I change in my own area. So let's keep working together, and one day at a time, we're going to shift to the place we need to be. I'm a true believer that mindset change is one of the first steps. And work with kids, work with your community, local community garden, your local schools. This is how we're going to change the system. If you're a parent, you know how your kids put a pressure on you and how they make you change lightly. So instead of just push to the adult community, let's work with the kids. They're eager to learn. And like Edward said, they need that hope. So in the name of the Soil Food at School, which I also want to give a round of applause for the staff that put this incredible webinar together. Thank you so much for another amazing opportunity. Thank you all for being here with us. This webinar will be recorded in our YouTube channel, so you can revisit as many times as you want, share with as many people as you can, and we hope to see you guys in the next webinar. Thank you so much and have a great week.